So hello everyone, it's James Thomas here from the OpenWhisk team at IBM. And in this video I want to show you how to get started building serverless applications for OpenWhisk with the Serverless Framework. The Serverless Framework is the most popular open source framework for building serverless applications. It's got something like 17,000 stars on GitHub. It provides a complete tool chain which dramatically reduces the complexity of getting started with serverless platforms. You define your application using a simple configuration file, and then using command line tools, the framework can automatically deploy your application to a serverless cloud provider. It also handles setting up all connected event streams and other cloud services that your application uses. The framework this week announced a new version 1.6 that now includes support for multi-serverless provider platforms, including the OpenWhisk platform. So let's have a look how you would use them together, building serverless framework applications to deploy to OpenWhisk. This is the Serverless Framework website, and if you go to the documentation section, you can now see we have all the information about using the framework with the OpenWhisk platform. It explains things like how to get set up, your workflow, how to define new serverless functions, connect them to services, install it, pass your credentials. We've also got a complete CLI reference for all the commands that you have available when you're using it with an OpenWhisk platform. Events that you might want to automatically define as connected your functions to, things like API gateways, schedules or triggers, or even a complete Hello World walkthrough to get you started with a simple boilerplate example. Now the Serverless Framework is actually a set of command line tools that you install using npm, Nodes Package Manager. And you can see here on this page we've got all the instructions about how to get set up. Once you've got Node installed, you need to install both the Serverless Framework as a global command using npm, and then also the OpenWhisk provider plugin, again using the npm as a global command. Now once you've installed both those tools, you need to pass it your credentials for an OpenWhisk platform instance that you've registered with. Now you've got a couple of options here. You can either use a hosted platform, something like IBM Bluemix, and there's all the details about here how to get set up with that. It's a fully hosted OpenWhisk solution that you can use without having to set anything up in the public cloud. Or you can, obviously because it's an open source serverless platform, you can host it yourself and kind of install it, and this gives you details about how to register an account with a version that you're using yourself from the open source platform. Once we've done that, once we've registered an account with an OpenWhisk instance, we then need to pass our account credentials through to the Serverless Framework. The quickest way is to use some environment variables, as you've shown here, or for a kind of more permanent solution, you can actually use a configuration file, whisk props, which is automatically set up if you've already got the OpenWhisk CLI installed. So once you've done that, the framework will pick up those credentials and allow you to interact with the platform without any further configuration. Today I'm going to be using OpenWhisk on IBM Bluemix, IBM's cloud, because it's all set up, and with a free account that you can register, I can get started building serverless applications really quickly. So let me jump to my command line now and set up the serverless platform tools, and then get started building applications to deploy to OpenWhisk. So to install the tools locally, all I have to do is say install serverless and serverless OpenWhisk. And using npm, I can set that up as a kind of global command line tool. Now to save viewers watching me run all the node modules install command, I've actually already got this set up locally, and I can see I now have this command called serverless available in my path. And this is going to allow us to deploy our applications, to create them, and kind of manage them when they're running live. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the command serverless create to create a new serverless application using kind of a boilerplate, a kind of template. So you can see I've got a number of options available to me, and the one I want to use is OpenWhisk for the Node.js platform. Great, so now we can see all the sample files that Serverless uses to allow us to define our application that we can then deploy to OpenWhisk. Serverless Framework applications use a simple manifest file to define your functions, events, and other resources that your application needs. Let's have a look at that manifest file for our simple boilerplate now. We can see it's got lots of comments in here to help us understand how to change the file and what the options are. So let's start by changing our actual application name, which is defined using the service parameter. Now our application is going to be a simple greeting service to return a user's name in a greeting string, so let's modify that. We can see that it uses the provider OpenWhisk, which is going to tell the framework which endpoint we want to deploy to. And down here is where your actual service functions are defined using the manifest file. You can see we've got one function called hello, which uses a JavaScript handler file called handler.js and uses the hello function, which is defined on the module that's being returned from that instantiation. Finally, if I scroll to the bottom, ignoring some of the other options, you can see that I'm referring to a serverless plugin for the OpenWhisk platform, which will automatically be picked up when we're typing the deploy command. So let's have a look at our serverless function now. So you can see I have this handler.js file, which exports a function called hello, which is going to be called for every invocation in my serverless application. It takes a parameter and returns a greeting string if it's available from the event context. So I've got my manifest file and I've got my JavaScript file, which contains my handler. Now the last thing I need to do before I can simply deploy this boilerplate to OpenWhisk is run npm install to set up some local project dependencies. This is going to link that serverless provider plugin for OpenWhisk into your kind of local service directory. Great, now with that set up, all I actually have to do is type serverless deploy, and it's going to take that boilerplate application and simply deploy it to the platform that I've already configured. Now that looks like it's worked. I can use the info command to check what is live at the moment on OpenWhisk. So you can see there's my endpoint that's been configured to talk through my configuration file I already set up. And you can see there's a service called greeting dev hello, which should be my service that's now running in production. So now we can type serverless invoke, and we give it a function name, hello. And it should make the call to our OpenWhisk platform and then show as a result in the console. There you go, that seemed to work pretty well. And I can pass in some data, some parameters. Name, to show you that it is actually working. And there we go, that's my serverless function running in the cloud. And if I go back to OpenWhisk, I should be able to see those invocations in the console. There we go, right, there's my serverless function running on OpenWhisk that I deployed really quickly using the boilerplate that's created from the template using the serverless framework. So let's kind of make a little quick modifications to my application and actually add a kind of HTTP API that we could talk to from some kind of front-end application. So to do this, all we have to do is edit the manifest. And there's some examples here of the different kind of events and things that you can add and some configuration to help you get started. But all I have to do to add a kind of public HTTP endpoint for my service is say events. I define a new HTTP event. I give it the method and I give it the path. Let's call it hello. Now all I have to do is type serverless deploy. I'm just going to go and update my application and now hopefully create me a new API endpoint. So let's see if everything's working. So there we go, that's the public HTTP endpoint for my serverless application. So if I issue a HTTP GET request to it, it should give me back the same results that we saw through the console. Cool, that's working. And I can also pass params in and verify that it works as well. And there we go, that was easy. Right now I've got some serverless function running in the public cloud somewhere. I defined a HTTP endpoint and I haven't had to set up or manage any of the resources, right? Almost no ops. So you can see how easy it was to get started building serverless applications using the serverless framework. It provides you with all of the tools to be able to configure, deploy, manage applications and then run them on serverless cloud platforms. With the latest release, you can now deploy these applications to any OpenWhisk platform, whether that's hosting yourself or using a third-party provider like IBM Bluemix. For more information on the serverless framework or the OpenWhisk plugin, please check out the documentation section on the project's homepage. If you have any issues or you need any advice, please come and also raise issues on the project in GitHub.